Yes, who is it?
Hello, I'm here for the installation for the ceramics.
Yes, come up. Zzz.
Thank you. Coming up. Very slowly.
You make your way upstairs carrying the sink that you've been instructed to install. It's not one of your most top of the line. In fact, you're fairly certain you built this one yourself. But this is the one that was ordered, and quite a lot of the stock from your factory comes to Berlin to be installed in flats like this. You understand that for the most part, it was because your factory installed everything in the first place, meaning that any changes to fixtures and fittings also have to be via your factory. It was something that the Heinz Ceramics excelled at. They essentially made a monopoly for themselves by making anything else incompatible with their fittings unless you wanted to rip it all out and start a bathroom from scratch.
I know the tricks.
Mm-hmm. You arrive at the apartment, sink in hands and pipes stacked inside.
Yes, come in. It's over here in the bathroom.
Okay, thank you. Let me pass. Thank you. Can I have a glass of water, please?
Sure. Go fetch him.
And okay, thank you. And where exactly is the toilet?
Yeah, this is the sink. It's right here. The
Yes.
end of the apartment to the right.
Okay, thank you. Let me get started right away. Jonas picks up the sink, goes there, leaves it carefully, takes off a toolbox. He has a toolbox with him that is strapped on his waist. Starts immediately unscrewing things, gets to work.
The thing you notice first is, as you start unscrewing, is the crack and the bullet hole in the sink. You can see why it has shattered the fitting. I mean, it's a bullet, but it's not the most common reason for uninstalling a sink.
Do I see any blood left, or it has all been washed out?
There's no blood in the sink, at least not a great amount of it, but you can see in the grouting between the tiles some little flecks of it still.
Okay, so I'm going to assume there was an accident here. So I'm very chatty, very energetic for some reason. And so I'm casually just asking, was there an accident or something here? Did somebody hurt themselves?
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, looks like it. Do you follow boxing?
Not particularly a fan. Why?
I'm just asking if you know about this match that is coming up.
Well, I'm usually busy with work. Don't follow sports much.
Yeah, of course. You know what? Is there any radio in the house? Can we listen maybe to sports or something?
Gunter rolls his eyes. This stranger trying to make a small talk is not interested, and now wants him to put on the radio. Whatever. Yeah, sure, no problem. I don't mind.
Thank you. Getting back to work, sorry.
As Gunther heads over to the radio to switch on, he sees a photo that he had not seen before. It's on the mantelpiece over where the radio is sat. And it's a photo of Hans, his wife Claudia, and the sergeant, Sergeant Mayer from your regiment. It seems to have been taken probably about 10, 15 years ago. It's a bit strange because you're fairly certain Sergeant Mayer stated he had minimal knowledge of Mueller. Certainly you didn't know your sergeant back then because you would have barely have graduated, but yeah, you had no idea that they had a connection.
Strange. By the way, about the ranks structure, like I said to you, my character is would be a sergeant or just below sergeant. So maybe this sergeant is a more senior sergeant.
Yes.
Like, well, my character is an Unteroffizier, and he will be an Oberfeldwebel. I probably slaughter.
I have no doubt you're saying it better than I would. Essentially, you're a non-commissioned officer. He would be a commissioned one.
Oh, he's an officer.
Well, we can change it. We'll say that he is a lieutenant of your regiment.
What age is he?
He is in his early 40s.
Early 40s. Well, probably could be an Oberleutnant.
Yeah, I don't mind if we move the ranks around. Really, the only thing important is that he is a higher rank than you, but not so high as to be unreachable.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get. I'm trying to find out the relationship between me and him. Okay.
You are informal enough that you will refer to each other by your first name when not on duty.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's likely he's been stationed with you since the time you joined the regiment, anyway.
Yeah, well, let's not get specific then.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, yeah, I do find this peculiar. I had no idea. I do not touch the picture.
So you switch the radio on?
I do.
Classical music emerges from it.
Get the radio, get the sports channel.
You know the frequency?
94.7.
Okay, I tune it.
Yeah, the sports radio starts up. The news is playing. Talks about the East German football team not being very good, and moves almost immediately onto the races. Makes its way through the various sporting events in Berlin at this time, East Berlin specifically, and boxing does come up. There is a big fight tonight, in fact, between it's a middleweight clash between Thomas and Gustav Becker, two brothers coming together to fight.
I'm amazed. I think it's a coincidence that I happen to be in Berlin this very night, and I'm a little bit in a dilemma whether I should attend the match or go meet my brother. And I'm probably thinking I should try to do both, but I'm not sure if I can.
The sink is easy enough to remove, and the new one simple enough to install. By the time you're finished, the bathroom looks a lot better. You don't obviously clean up the blood, that's not your job, but the sink is certainly an improvement.
Great. So yes, thank you. I finished the glass of water and I leave it on the kitchen table and I pack up my toolbox and everything else I left there. I wipe myself from the sweat and thank you very much, sir. I'm on my way. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
No
Goodbye.
worries. No worries.
We're going to jump ahead a little. We'll stick with Jonas for a little while, just to ascertain what he did that night. So, Jonas, it comes to 9 p.m. You're supposed to be meeting up with your brother in the bar. Do you attend?
Yes, I do.
Very good. You arrive there, and your brother is there. He's got a lot of his friends that you met earlier, and there is a very attractive young woman standing with him. Dark brown hair, quite short, but very confident in her pose. And she's holding her drink along with the guys.
Okay.
Jonas, come over.
Hey guys.
This is Jonas, this is my kid brother. And he introduces everyone around him.
Nice to meet you.
And this is Anna, who I told you all about.
Hello. Jonas is very shy and awkward.
Don't worry about him, he doesn't know his way around things. I says, it's all right, Jonas. You look very sweet.
Come on, stop this.
You drink, Jonas? She says.
Oh, of course I do.
Beer then?
Definitely.
Do you want me to leave you two to get acquainted now? Says your brother. We were going to do some bar games, maybe some drinking games, but if you two want to have an evening, I'm not going to hold it against you.
Jonas is very shy. He doesn't. He avoids saying yes or no. He's just mumbling.
We'll see how it goes, says Anna, putting her arm around Jonas. Just tell me if you don't want my arm there.
I don't know. Let's just go get a beer.
You drink for a good 30 minutes to an hour. None of the drinking games are terribly heavy. There's a bit of singing at the bar. Everyone's just having a good time. And Anna's staying at your side. She's not being too pushy. She's not being overly familiar. She's acting friendly. And it's very pleasant. She makes an incredibly pleasant company. When other women arrive at the bar and hang with the group, several of them seem to pointedly ignore her or avoid her, but she doesn't seem fazed by that. Her attention is largely on you, and you don't think she's patronizing in the way she's laughing at your jokes and smiling at you all the time. She seems to have a genuinely friendly personality.
Well, I'm very flattered, but I haven't felt this emotion ever in my life, and it's my first time being in a woman's attention, so I don't know how to handle it exactly, but I'm very awkwardly smiling most of the time.
As the evening progresses, she doesn't make any firm moves, but you are aware that at 11 p.m, that's when the big fight starts. There is a radio in the bar, and occasionally people quieten down to listen to a song or sing along with it. But you know that the arena is just a short bus journey away. You could make a quick escape. Probably still get inside if they've got any tickets on the door.
So I'm very much aware of the time, because I really want to go to the match, and I'm also very conflicted because I feel that this is an opportunity for me, that my brother is helping me, like to meet a woman and all this kind of stuff. I feel excited about this, so I try to improvise and I tell her, I try to be discreet, take her off to the side, and say to Anna, listen, I have to leave, but can you give me like a phone number I can call you, maybe for the dormitories somewhere that I can give you a phone call later?
Where are you going? I was just getting to know you.
Well, you know, I have to get back to my hometown tomorrow, and I don't have a lot of time, and also want to catch a boxing match that is going on close here. It's my first time in Berlin, so I just want to go everywhere.
Her eyes widen at that. A boxing match?
Yeah, there's two brothers fighting actually. It's gonna be good.
You could just beat up your brother in here and you wouldn't have to make the day. We'd all watch.
Yeah, we stopped that a long time ago. Don't do this anymore. And I laugh immediately.
I'll tell you what, I'm not done with you yet, Jonas. So I'll come to the boxing match with you.
Really? That's great. Perfect. Come. We can catch the bus.
Yeah, I don't mind watching. I don't mind watching men beat 7 hells out of each other.
That's my favorite things as well.
And so the two of you attend the boxing match, and it isn't a glorious competition. One of the Beckers knocks the other one out in the second round cleanly. It's very brief, and as is often the case, there are secondary acts if an arena has been booked out. So as Gustav Becker takes away the middleweight title, you see some welterweights fighting, some featherweights, and the crowd was only really here for the Beckers, that's who they were placing money on, but the casual fans are having a good enough time watching fighters of different weight classes duking it out for the spectators' enjoyment. And good as her word, Anna does appear to be enjoying it. By the end of the night, she's holding onto your arm as the fighting is going on, and you feel comfortable with her being there.
I'm being extremely nerdy, explain all the details about, this is this type of punch and that's this type of punch and everything, and I'm so excited about the details. And I tell her everything about me boxing as well, and how I sometimes want to get the golden belt and whatnot. And I don't know if they have a golden belt in USSR, but anyway. And at some point, I guess the whole thing is about to end, right?
Mm-hmm.
All this so I think that as I'm about to leave permanently, take the bus home, and while we're waiting for my bus to arrive, and it's a little bit awkward, I try to blow her a kiss in the lips.
She, for the first time all night, appearing shy herself, receives your kiss and blows one back and says, "I'm not done with you, Jonas. We will meet again."
I smile and I leave as I take the bus.
We're going to jump to 2 years later. Things have changed for your characters in these past couple of years, at least to a minor degree. You're both in the same industry or career path as you were before. Communism still reigns in East Berlin and Germany and the USSR, of course. There are, however, some changes, and some of them you can dictate for yourself. based on what you think your characters might have done in the last 2 years. Some of the events of 1986 will have gone from your mind as unimportant. Some, however, have left lasting impacts. In the case of Jonas, for instance, in the intervening 2 years, he and Anna's romance blossomed. They married. And she now lives in his hometown with him. For now, she is in the same apartment as the rest of his family, or the same house as the rest of his family, I should say. But the two of them are hoping to start a family of their own and move out soon enough. Maybe even going to Berlin, where his older brother still lives. He never returned home. It's entirely up to you, Vasilis, whether you think that the two of you would have had children already, or whether that's something far off. I think it's maybe best if that's something you're planning, but it's up to you.
No, we're not very financially secure yet, so we're just waiting for the moment.
One thing you found to your embarrassment the next time you met Anna was that all of those nerdy things you told her about boxing, she already knew. She just humored you as you were talking about them. It turned out she was a big fan of boxing all along. And maybe that's what formed the foundation of your strong relationship that went on. The joke that she often tells to embarrass you now in a light-hearted way is how you told her everything she already knew about boxing, but you did it in such an excited way that she couldn't shut you up. And that's when she realized she loved you, that kind of thing. See, we can do romance in role-playing games. It's not all horrible horror.
Well.
I assume you are still happy for Vasilis to... Oh, sorry, that's you. I assume you're still happy for Jonas to be working at the factory.
Yeah, he's perfectly fine. Everything is under control.
And what about his boxing career? I imagine Anna would have supported him if he wanted to take that a little more semi-professional.
Yes, and indeed, through contacts from his brother, and he constantly goes to the municipal telephone post and tries to catch his brother on the phone and ask him or leave him messages about, can you arrange a meeting with this guy, or can I see this guy about how we can set up something. And I'm trying to do as many gigs as I can find in my little town, even though it's not a lot. And I'm always aspiring to it, even though I have very modest and not even anything to be proud of as results.
And how good would you say you are as a boxer? Are you coming away from this with swollen up eyes and multiple concussions, or are you actually a boxing prodigy who just happened to be born in the wrong town?
The funny thing is that if they had picked me up when I was like 18, 19, I would have been stellar. But now I'm getting older, and even though I have the talent, I don't think there's any fight left in me. I also smoke a lot, so it's going downhill.
Well, the exciting piece of news that your brother gives you, and when both you and Anna hear this, you both look at each other. It's like fate calling you. There is an open call for boxers from the east, from East Germany. And as we didn't ascertain your weight class beforehand, I'm going to say that you are a middleweight.
Yeah, perfect.
The two first boxers you watched compete alongside Anna at the arena was Gustav Becker. And while he is no longer champion and hasn't been for over a year, he is seeking an opponent. No doubt there are numerous agents going out to gymnasiums trying to find a suitable opponent. But your brother, who is doing very well for himself in Berlin, has pulled some strings and specifically had Becca's agent looking into you. And tentatively, Becca has approved the match. You will be signposted, essentially heralded as a local boxing hero, an amateur pugilist with a sterling record that may well be inflated for the sheet. Certainly, you're going to be attributed with more knockout victories than you ever have had, because there's no way of anyone telling otherwise. But just the opportunity to compete against a former champion, even though you are on the downward slope of your career as a boxer, and especially one who is so connected to your relationship with Anna, may be too big an opportunity to miss. I'll let you think on that, because we also have Gunther, who in the last 2 years, again, it's one of those situations, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You still work within your regiment, you still help suppress civil unrest, and that civil unrest has been growing. The causes still seem often trivial to you. It's again not like there's a revolution waiting to happen, but it's 1988 in East Berlin. A lot of the youth are consistently unhappy, calling out unfairness, the way the state employs the government officials, the military especially, gain so much more than the academics, than the experts, than the teachers, than the doctors and the nurses, who are working for barely anything despite the good work they do. And the students are constantly campaigning, saying, what is our education worth if we cannot use it in this country? And you find yourself night after night, day after day, manning the streets, suppressing these revolts, seeing the same old faces over and over again who you know won't stay in prison. It's grinding you down a little. What has changed in Gunther's life? What do you think would have changed in the last 2 years?
Well, he sort of he was paranoid about the cases. He sort of like, he figured if nothing happened in 2 years, no one asked again, he's safe. But at the same time, he cannot distance himself from his friend in the regiment, because he's obviously lied to him. He's hiding things from him, so it feels like maybe it's not such good company to have after all. At the same time, he tried to find perhaps a bit of information here and there about these murders, mostly, anecdotes, things like that, without arousing much suspicion, because that's something that lingered in his mind. But he tried to keep quiet, because obviously if there's a cover-up, these kind of things, you can be patriotic, but this kind of thing can get you in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it is for a reason, and maybe it's if the state doesn't want anyone to know about this. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe it's for the better. But yes, that thing still haunts him, and he's a bit paranoid. He has a bit. He figures if nothing happened yet, nothing will happen. But at the same time, he's haunted by this.
For that reason, your relationships are brief. those romantic liaisons you form over the last 2 years. You can never really find yourself trusting anyone quite well enough, especially as the majority of people you meet are met through your colleagues. So you never know when you're being spied on, or at least that's what your mind tells you. You've utilized informants before. You do it day by day. And that, of course, makes you aware that sometimes, as you say, there are things that the government, that the military, that the police want kept quiet, and for good reason. And you are not always entitled to know the reason. All you know is that people are watching each other. And if you're delving into something that isn't meant to be delved into, a lot of people might be watching you. The yes, Oberleutnant Mayer, who has remained within your regiment, but ever since the incident 2 years ago has retained a professional distance from you. In fact, pretty much from the point he asked those questions, any kind of informality between the two of you stopped. Maybe that helped fuel your paranoia as well. It was as if he actively suspected you of being some kind of dissident or spy, and so he cut all personal contact. He still works with you or above you, but yeah, the relationship is definitely cool at this point. Do you think you would have kept in touch with Claudia Müller? Or would the paranoia have prevented you from doing so?
I would perhaps not keep too much in touch with her, but mainly because she was not his friend. You know, he was friends with her husband, and while at first he was supportive, he grew out of that. Maybe not consciously because of paranoia, but because of his trusting issues, him not having too many friends, he just not kept in touch, really. Just stick with his family, mostly his mother and 2 sisters, who are probably the only people on the planet he completely trusts. And then, yes, perhaps go out with work friends, maybe people under him and that now look up to him. They consider him perhaps somewhat a good superior non-commissioned officer, and perhaps a bit permissive in some things. His bosses don't like that. But you know, as long as they're not, there's nothing serious, he's a bit relaxed with his troop. So they like him, I guess.
One of your proteges, I guess, is newly promoted Corporal Weaver, who joined your troop around 2 years ago. He's a few years younger than yourself, Heinrich Weaver. And you think there's a bit of hero worship that goes on there. He likes to hang around you. He listens to what you say, and as a corporal, follows the sergeant's instructions on how to treat the rest of the troop. He is responsible for rallying them into action, ensuring they're all dressed appropriately, ensuring there is complete conformity and appropriateness in the barracks for when inspection comes around. And so it's not always a bad idea for the sergeant to have a close relationship with the corporal, and he makes it easier by being easygoing and friendly individual, with you at least. As far as the lowest ranks concerned, the privacy is as a corporal often would be, and that is authoritative, to say the least, a bully at worst. But they know their place around him. Weaver hasn't turned up for duty, which is very odd of him this morning. It results in you being called for inspection. You look down your ranks, ensure everyone is wearing the correct uniform. The weapons are clean. The beds are made. But no call from Corporal Weaver.
This already has been reported, right? I have to report this missing.
As his immediate superior, it probably would have been reported to you by the registrar, but yeah, where you take it from there is up to you, whether you want to keep it within the quarters of your barracks or whether you want to take it to higher authority.
I wait for a while in case it might be late, but if he does not turn up, I will report him missing. Absent without license.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about doing that to someone who, over the last couple of years, has become at least somewhat friendly with you?
Well, he knows how I work, and he can expect, if he gets a bit late, I won't do anything, but he's still not coming. My worry is if something happened to him and I don't report him, not only will I get in trouble, but maybe something happened to him and people should be looking for him.
Yeah, a couple of military police will be dispatched for him if he doesn't show up soon.
In this time and age, there are no cell phones, so
No.
Maybe he is still, something, maybe not something too terrible not happened to him, but still it's a possibility that he's just late. But if he's too late and still not coming, there's not much I can do.
Exactly. You do your duty in the barracks, and over the last couple of years, you say you were looking into this murder tentatively, the murders tentatively, and the potential murderer, seeing whether you could make any connections with names. You were certainly able to identify, from at least from memory, bearing in mind you only read it once and then burned the documents, the officers' names, some of whom, again, still serve, some of whom have retired before and during the last 2 years. The one name that you never found any connection to was this Rudolf Hoffman. Whether he even exists today is difficult to ascertain. The records in East Germany aren't the most amazingly well kept, despite all the myths of bureaucracy filing absolutely everything, keeping a file on absolutely everyone. It's also an amazing labyrinth. If you don't have more to trace an individual than a name, then someone with a name as common as Rudolf Hoffman easily slips through the cracks. Was there anything in particular you were looking for during your investigation over the preceding 2 years?
Basically, the approach I had was similar to someone asking about ghost stories, those myths that, no one talks about. That because this wasn't in the news, this wasn't official. So, mostly asking about the same way someone would ask about, these barracks, they saw a ghost. Well, on this someone from this barracks got killed. No one, that wasn't in the news. No one saw anything, but it happened. Kind of like that, kind of like anecdotic approach.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too specific. It's not trying to be a private investigator about it.
Yeah. Some of the times you've mentioned it over the last couple of years, you've spoken to an old hand who has indeed heard of or remembers the deaths of some of their compatriots. Bear in mind, only about 5 of the victims on the list were officially connected to the military, so the rest appear to be just random young men, at least as far as Mueller could determine. But specifically, the deaths within the National People's Army, or the young soldiers of the National People's Army, that caused a bit of a scandal that was knowingly suppressed. Mueller's hunch was correct there. From everyone you speak to, a lot of people believe that when the 4th body dropped within the course of 4 years in a manner that sounded similar to the rest, and all had been serving within the National People's Army, then yeah, the high command or someone on the police end of things kept it all hushed up. When no further deaths occurred, it was considered by anyone serving that it had been dealt with quietly.
So basically, maybe it has been as far as I know, it has been dealt with. It has been resolved. Maybe they kept it quiet for a reason.
Exactly. That's certainly the common belief, although no one knows the name of the perpetrator. Hence why they believe it was dealt with quietly.
Okay, so that's probably my conclusion as well. And at this point, I probably don't pay much more attention to it.
You receive a call in the barracks. It's the afternoon by this point. You have been ordered in the next hour or so to attend a street party that may well get out of hand. The only reason you're being called to it is because a number of the known agitators who have been rallying students, pretty much all of them are supposed to be present at this party. And if there's a way to snatch them up for some illegal activity here, whether it's taking drugs, drunk and disorderly or something like that, now might be a good opportunity to put some cuffs on them. But you get the call an hour beforehand. Sir, this is Officer Speer of the military police. We have some rather troubling news, I'm afraid, sir. Corporal Weaver has been murdered, we believe. We found his body in grounds close to the barracks, in fact. It appears he was murdered either leaving here last night or coming here in the morning. We've yet to determine. Forensics haven't been dispatched. We've called them, but you're the first. You're the first at the barracks we've made contact with outside of military police. You may want to attend the scene, sir, to identify the body and to... This is the first I've seen anything like this, so I apologize for my faltering manner.
It's okay. Have you notified my superiors about this? I can't just randomly go away.
No, of course not, sir. As you are Corporal Weaver's direct superior, we have notified them the pathologists and the investigators of the military police, but now we are notifying you. You are the first person within your regiment, sir, that we are notifying.
Well, I'll go ask my superiors, but you should notify them as well. Otherwise, I'm tied.
Of course, again, apologies. Most of our investigations are to do with possession of black market goods, not things like this.
Nothing to apologize. You're only doing your job.
Of course, apologies for the inconvenience.
No, not at all. Just want to make sure everything's clear before I go anywhere.
And do you get in touch with your superiors, or was that a bluff?
No, I'll actually go and tell them and ask them if they know about this, if I'm authorized to go.
Your immediate superior available is good old Oberleutnant Mayer.
Well, I inform him of exactly what I've been told. I ask him if he has any news about this, and if I'm allowed to go or should I wait? Because in a structure like this, just because someone from another force calls me, I mean, I can't just. I have a chain of command.
Yeah, of course. You're in the Oberleutnant's office, and he stands from his chair. I am, of course, very troubled by this news, as I'm sure you are, Sergeant.
Yes, indeed. When he was late this morning, after a while he didn't come, I reported him missing. And now at this call.
And what do you know about this?
Well, the same as you do. I thought he was alive until I got the call. I thought perhaps he fell asleep or something.
And do you know how he died, based on your call with the military police?
I have absolutely no idea. They just called me to identify him. Have they been in contact with you?
No, they have not. I will be discussing that with their superiors. Calls such as this should be coming through to a member of the officer class, not... Anyhow, either way, no, you have your duty on the street today. It's a very important one. We could potentially arrest several known adjutants, and I can handle the identification myself. I knew Corporal Weaver.
Oh, thank you, sir. I just wanted to make sure on how to proceed. I shall attend to today's operations, sir.
Thank you for checking with me, Sergeant. And for the time being, keep this to yourself. I don't want the rest of the troop disturbed today on the day of such an important operation. Once we have more facts, we will relay the sad news. If you hear anyone within your troop discussing this, I want you to shut it down.
I understand, sir. Is there anything else, sir?
No, you are dismissed.
Thank you.
We're going to head back to Jonas now.
Yep.
So, you've heard the news. There's a fight planned for you to attend in Berlin.
I am putting all of my energy into preparing for this. I do take extra time. I stop smoking. I drink all of my milk. I'm getting perfectly ready.
Anna thinks you're a bit of a joke, but she supports you as you go. Your mother and aunt have never been so proud of you, although they hate the idea of you being beaten up for people's enjoyment. They know that this is a big deal for you, and they're being incredibly supportive. Only your father is very cynical about the idea, and he keeps saying, you're too old now, you're past your prime, you need to stick with me, stay at the factory, you're going to go there and you're going to make yourself ugly.
Father, this is my last chance, my only chance. I have to take it.
I know that's what you think. I know you think this is your last chance, but you can't just give up smoking and drinking and expect that within a matter of weeks you're going to be an Olympic athlete. If anything, you should keep smoking. The torture you're going to be putting your body through by giving up and expecting to fight so soon afterwards, you'll be hacking and wheezing all over your opponent. He'll think you've got TB.
Listen, I trust my coach. Okay, if I take a beating, he's gonna throw the towel. We're gonna be fine. Nothing's gonna go wrong.
No. I'm not going to watch. I'll listen to it on the radio.
Okay, well, as you wish.
But I am proud of you. I'm proud of you for following your dream. You're doing something no one else in this family has ever done. I'm proud of you. But don't break your hands. You will be needed the week after to work back with me.
Oh yes, of course. But Tobias said that he can come and pick you up and mom with a car and he can drive you, so you can watch. So
I don't want to drive all the way to Berlin.
Okay.
If your mother wants to go, I won't stop her.
I guess I'll see you Monday then. I don't know.
You know your mother's not going to go without her husband.
I know.
But your aunt, who has been a rather sad recluse for the last few decades, seems very enthusiastic for an excuse to get out of the house. You're a bunch of stick in the muds. What if he gets knocked down in the first round? Is it called knockdown? It doesn't matter. He's performing under lights. He's an actor. He's a singer. He's Fred Astaire. We should go. We should support him. And if you're not going to, then fine. There's just more room in the car for me.
That's the spirit, Auntie. That's the spirit.
Well, the time comes for the big fight. And you make your way to Berlin. Do you think your mother and father will be going with you? What do you think?
I think because my father didn't want to come, my mother cannot just go on her own, so she sticks home.
Well, your aunt makes the journey, as does Anna. And you arrive back in Berlin, seeing Tobias again. There's a joyful reunion. As I said, Tobias has really made something of himself in the last few years. He is quite the engineering marvel as far as many Berliners are concerned. But he's very proud of you, incredibly proud of you. I always said you'd make something of yourself. He says, giving you another big hug. There's lots of hugs in this story.
Jonas is not very confident this time. He used to feel confident right about the time he entered Berlin. He starts feeling very anxious, very out of his water. Maybe he's like, is he overreaching? That's what he feels now. Is he overextending?
Your nerves are apparent to your brother, who gives you a friendly tap on the face. Listen, you remember when we used to fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we sometimes fought each other hard. I didn't get this nose by walking into a door frame, no matter what I told Mum and Dad.
Jonas laughs.
Look, you might win, you might lose, but you've never had an opportunity like this. Go out there, have fun. Imagine you're fighting to entertain people. Fighting to entertain Anna, me, Auntie. Doesn't matter if you win or lose, Jonas. You just need to have fun. This is you now. This is you on display, and even if you only get to do it once, think of the stories you can tell your children. You fought a boxing match, a former middleweight champion in Berlin.
Jonas now focuses on the one thing that can give him confidence, which is how stubborn he is, and he realizes that now he has to win. Like, he's going to win no matter what. There is no other possible outcome, and sort of fixes his mind around the idea that whatever happens, he's go in, deliver the punches, and he's gonna come out victorious.
Comes to the night of the big fight, and you're making your way to the arena. There's a blockade in the road, and the stress immediately mounts. You thought you'd left with enough time to get there, get changed, introduce yourself to your opponent. You've still not met him, although you've certainly been reading all the magazines with him in. You've been listening to all his recorded fights on the radio. It's pretty damn difficult to find videos of middleweight local boxers at this time, but you've done whatever research you can on both of the Becker brothers, and you think you know your way around Gustav based on what's been written about him. And just like you, 2 years in a boxer's career, especially after they've already hit championship level, it's rare that you're going to get better. He's become a slugger. He is a boxer who will knock his opponents out as swiftly as possible, and he was always like that, but he's lost a lot of his speed, and that's what's most commonly reported. What kind of boxer would you say you are at this point?
I'm fairly tall, so I usually play center in the ring, and I try to use long jabs to keep the opponent spinning around me while I don't waste any energy. As soon as they get tired, they do a misstep in the defense. I just go in for a knockout.
Whereas Gustav is more of a lunge and close the distance. So it will make for an interesting matchup, even if it's not necessarily an entertaining one. But yeah, that's if the matchup even happens. You're almost feeling compelled to leave the car behind, because the traffic on this road, this snarled up road, isn't easing.
I'm just frustrated. I try to maintain my composure, but it's just I just keep on feeling like I'm kind of started swearing. I'm getting frustrated with the traffic.
Anna puts her hand on your forearm. Your brother's already going to be at the arena. He will be letting them know you're coming. There's no need to, you don't need to panic. You don't need to panic. Look, if you want to walk ahead, I will bring the car and your auntie. Even if we arrive just as you're starting, you need to get there.
I look at my crappy watch and say, listen, if this takes more, if we don't move in the next 5 minutes, I'm just gonna start walking.
Hey, she unclasps the watch from your wrist. Stop letting this get to you. I'll look after this. Start walking. If we catch up and see you walking, we'll pick you up again. Simple as that.
Okay, I give her a kiss. I just touch my auntie's arm on the back seat to say goodbye.
She says, you're going to be a champion one day.
I very hastily laugh, close the door, and start walking hastily towards my destination.
You find yourself walking through a thick of student protesters. You don't really get protests like this down in your hometown. Well, certainly there's occasional dissidents in Bout, and most of the time it relates to criminal activity rather than student protests, which, of course, the Stasi and the police still make efforts to break up. You catch sight of a face you haven't seen in 2 years, and indeed you only saw it briefly 2 years ago, as one of the paramilitary soldiers manning the streets at this time, ensuring that the protest doesn't get out of hand, is, you think, that's Hans Müller. At least that's what the name was. You're not even sure why the name sticks with you. You remember a delivery of a sink to a Hans Müller's house, Hans and Claudia Müller, and you don't remember. And that guy was in there, wasn't he? The only reason it sticks with you is because you remember the bullet hole in the sink. It was a pretty distinctive job. And of course, it was the same day that you met Anna and all the rest. But yeah, you see him there in his uniform, keeping an eye on the crowd. Gunther. You don't see Jonas. Your eyes are on the agitators. You've got your list. You're prepared to have things thrown at you. You've got your list of names. You're looking for the slightest provocation at this point. These ringleaders, as they're called, there's 5 of them. And you're reliably informed if they were taken off the streets, these protests would die down, at least for a couple of months, and that would make everyone's lives a lot easier and the streets a lot calmer. God knows it's been long enough since they were calm. There's also protests of words to the effect of, what do we want? Students' rights. When do we want them? Now. And students' dreams are real dreams. Students' dreams are real dreams. And where is the Berlin youth? Where is the Berlin youth? And even some protests of tear down the wall, tear down the wall. It's all rather, again, youth-focused, designed to stir up the crowd. And these 5 are dead in the center of it. You could probably arrest one of them, maybe all of them, for causing a public disturbance. But right now, the protest group is staying away from any violent behavior.
You're asking me if I want to stir the crowd?
Oh, you can if you like, if you want a good reason to arrest the ringleaders. But right now they are remaining peaceable but noisy.
Okay, as I'm a non-commissioned officer, I will wait for instruction to do such things. I will not try to do anything of that myself.
Jonas screams, Herr Müller, Herr Müller, and goes towards you.
I don't think they're speaking to me.
No,
Jonas.
Muller is a common enough name, and you've not heard this this voice in 2 years, and even then only briefly. He was distinctly not memorable.
Still, Jonas approaches you, gets in your face, and looks unfittingly frustrated and anxious, and says, Herr Müller, can you tell me, I need to get to the city center, I need to get to that street, and can you tell me if I can take, is there another way around? Well, what is this protest? What is going on?
I'm pretty used of people asking me of their way around the city, and I don't even try to correct him on the name. I just tell him of a detour he can take, so that he doesn't have to go through here.
Jonas says, thank you very much, sir, and tries to find a bicycle to just, use if someone has left it somewhere.
Sorry?
Jonas thanks you, and immediately starts going away, trying to find a bicycle to take the detour to avoid the crowd.
Trying to find a bicycle.
You see the man go for a bicycle that is clearly not his. Plenty of the students have left them laying around or leaning up against things as they're protesting. You're going to try stopping him? It's a pretty small potatoes, but you are supposed to. Yeah, he is stealing a bike in front of
Hey, what are you doing?
No, listen, I'm just, I just need to get to the city center. I'm boxing today. I have to be at the ring. I can't get through the crowd, and I'm starting the fight in 10 minutes. He's all over the place. He just bubbles about everything.
Genossen, which is the Sherman word for comrade. Genossen, we still have not reached the state in which private property is completely overruled. This is not yours.
As you say that, you hear the smash of glass and a scream from behind you as you've been distracted by Jonas and his bike theft. You've lost sight of some of the ringleaders, and a shop front window has been smashed in along with the front window of a car. The protest is starting to get unruly. This may be what you've been waiting for.
Okay, I stop paying attention to
Jonas.
the burglar, to that crime, and start paying attention to the crimes against the state.
Well, the crimes against the state are expanding before your very eyes. The group is done with peaceful protest at this point. They're starting to vandalize property, and the shouts are becoming less and less about students' individual rights and more about the crimes of the Soviet state. More and more cries of tear down the wall, and let us be free, let us be free. You see one of the privates in your regiment step forward out of line and point his baton at one of the students and say, and bellow, calm yourself down. The student tries to wrestle the baton out of his hand, and he punches the student clean in the face for doing so.
I order him to get back in line. Is there an officer around?
Yeah, there is an officer, appears to be on a radio, reporting back everything that's going on. He gives you a nod.
Okay, I take that as authorization to proceed, and I lead my troop to try to clear orderly, as orderly as possible, to clear the streets while I try to point out the leaders and to obtain their arrest.
You think you can spot 4 of them still there, but one of them is just completely out of sight. You just can't see that. And you would almost pinpoint that one as the central figure of this entire protest, the loudest voice, the rabble rouser here. And you're looking around, pointing your individual soldiers at, grab that one, grab that one. Don't let that one out of your sight. But you can't see a number 1 agitator, an older woman with grey hair, grey eyes, looked like she'd been through the wars, but she was fiery. She was practically spitting fire. As you look around, do see something on the other side of the street. And it's something that catches your eye only briefly. A flash that you probably wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't been earlier thinking about the murders you idly investigated over the last 2 years and the recent death of Corporal Weaver. On the opposite side of the street, there's many buildings with many doors. Some are shops, some are offices. One of them is a doctor's office. And you wouldn't have paid any attention to this at all, except for the brass plaque outside the door, naming the doctor in residence here as Dr. Rudolf Hoffman. It could be a complete coincidence. Again, pretty common name. But as your eyes make that link, you stare across the street. You become lost for a second. You almost feel like you aren't even in this swelling riot anymore. You're not even a part of this heaving mortal throng at this time. You almost feel like you're drifting towards the plaque, floating towards it through the people, as if you can taste the brass on your tongue, as if you can feel the etch of the letters underneath your finger. It's an out-of-body experience unlike which you've never felt anything of this kind before. You've never experienced anything. You've certainly never taken drugs enough to do something like this. The closest you've ever experienced is, you think, particularly when your father died. Yeah. When your father died and you were grieving, it felt a little like this. A little like you were observing everything from outside your body. Something snaps you back to consciousness, but only briefly. It's a loud crack. Could be described as a bang, but to your ears it was a crack. Almost like a thunderclap. Perhaps because it was so close. By rights, biologically, you shouldn't have heard it at all. The bullet that killed you was fired from a gun very close to your head. And you are pretty confident as you're slumped on the pavement, your legs completely given out underneath you, that none of those students had guns. It's one of the first things you check for, one of the first things you look out for is anyone carrying something that could constitute a deadly weapon, because that's the easiest way to arrest somebody, and it's certainly not something you want to get involved with. And you didn't see any of the ringleaders with weapons, did you? You don't think so. And it's strange how easy it is to contemplate this as your brains are spilling out between the cracks in the pavement. How you think you can hear the echo of screams of people alarmed by the sudden gunfire, and the gunfire that follows, as when soldiers see one of their own shot down, they go to their own arms. What will eventually be known as the Schutzstrasse massacre starts with your death. But your death was probably completely unrelated to the reasons that those students got shot. Perhaps the reason for your death is something you will ascertain when you return as a Wraith. But until then, your story has ended, and Gunther is dead. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's gonna be interesting when I come back as a Wraith to try to find out the reason behind what might have happened.
Yep, sometimes death comes quickly and unexpectedly, not least of which for soldiers. But yeah, there will be time for that. Jonas, however, by the time this happened, was cycling fast away from the riots. You think, Jonas, you hear the sound of gunfire behind you. In fact, you're sure of it. You're about 3 blocks away when you hear the rapid shot of what you can only imagine is maybe rifles, or just lots of handguns being discharged in short order. You're not a military man, you don't know for sure, but it makes you think of a firing squad.
Do I notice anybody else freaking out about it?
There's a lot of people on the street stopping, looking. There's a few shouts of alarm. Someone says, get in, and gestures for some people to run into a bar, closes the door behind them, just in case there's something dangerous afoot. The arena is in sight, though.
I give myself 5 seconds of questioning what the heck was that, and I don't have enough time to spend on wondering anymore. I immediately snap back to the fact that I need to get to the arena. Continue cycling.
You arrive at the arena. You are dimly aware that on the other side of those protests was your wife and your auntie. But that isn't your focus right now. Your focus is the fact that your brother is there waiting for you. He's tapping his own watch, says, you cut it fine, brother.
I'm extremely worried and very weird about my behavior. And I tell him, listen, something weird happened. We got stuck in traffic.
It doesn't matter. You need to get to the lockers. You need to get your shorts on. You need to get your gloves. Look,
I stop him. Tobias, listen, I'll do everything, but please, you have to try to find Anna and Auntie. Okay, I'll do everything. Just find out what happened. Okay.
All right, one of the trainers is in the locker room. He can bind your hands and all that. Just tell me the route you came. I'll look for them.
Southstrasse.
Okay. All right. He steals the bike that you stole and cycles off. You head
Uh,
for the lockers then.
yes.
Your opponent is sat in there as well, having his own hands taped up. He's an older man than you by about 10 years. His face is craggy. It tells a story of many blows. But his body is still toned. He's clearly used to fighting and makes a living from doing so. He looks you up and down as you get ready. I suppose we should introduce ourselves. Always polite.
Nice to meet you. I'm Jonas. I've actually seen one of your fights 2 years ago in this very arena.
No, I won a championship for my brother that night.
Indeed.
I remember it too. There's a lot of fights I don't remember. Gustav Becker, as if the introduction was needed. He shakes you by the hand. I don't go for all that, what they call it, intimidation before a fight. I don't need to belittle you or make you feel small. You just need to know that when I go out to the ring, I fight to win, and I won't hold back just because you're some rural boy from a small town. You understand?
Yeah, it's just a match. It's just a sport, Everything for the fans, It's fine.
I can't. One hand, I can't afford to lose this. I've been on a bit of a losing streak recently. But on the other, I could stand to make a nice amount of money if I lose. So,
Listen, I know nothing about this. I don't know what you're talking about.
well, how's your family set up? Cash-wise, I mean.
Everything's sorted out. Don't worry
He
about it.
sends the trainer away and yours. Look, we've got about 2 minutes. And then we need to start getting ready seriously. Welcome to the professional leagues, Jonas. In these fights, especially against champions and ex-champions and contenders for championships, there's usually a few interested parties. Sometimes it's the state, sometimes it's criminal enterprises. They're putting money down because they want to see a specific outcome. And we can make it easier for them if we want that outcome to happen. It's never as straightforward as everyone wants you to throw a fight. Usually one side wants you to win, one side wants you to lose. So, my question to you is, do you want a clean fight, or do you want to make more money and have an easier fight?
Jonas seems very much troubled. He didn't expect this. He was actually admiring Gustav, and now he feels that it's all just a sham. He lost his sportsmanship spirit. He feels his heart is drowning. He's a little bit disgusted. So he says, "Listen, I don't know about this. I just came here to just box, I don't mean to be insensitive to everything you said. And if I was notified earlier, we could have come to some sort of agreement. I'm not unreasonable, but don't you think it's a little bit too late for that?"
I've got to respect your guts. We'll have a clean fight then, Jonas. And may the best man win.
Great. May the best man win.
You hear him muttering under his breath, but the trainers come back in, fit you with gloves.
I talked to my trainer. Told him, listen, did anybody tell you anything about this being staged or anything?
Yeah, you hear about that all the time in the big city.
I think the guy just tried to get an easy victory out of me.
What, he asked you to lay down for him?
Yeah, I think he was lying. He was trying to snatch an easy victory.
Alright, watch out for that. There might be people who are looking for an outcome here, Jonas. Don't want to piss them off.
Nobody told me anything.
This is the capital. And things don't necessarily go the way that criminal outfits want. People can get hurt.
Do you know anything? You're making me worried. Do you know anything?
I don't know anything about this match. As far as I'm concerned, it's a pretty low-level match. This guy hasn't been champion for near on 2 years now. So why anyone would be interested? But I suppose you can put money on anything. No, I've not heard anything, Jonas. But my advice is we fight, we get the hell out. Then, then we can worry.
That's all I care. And listen, if he goes all out, tries to be sneaky about it, just throw the towel. No, I didn't come here to be champion. I came here to experience this. I'm getting married. I'm married now. Just take care.
I know, and you're gonna have kids, and they're gonna be beautiful, unlike you, but like your wife. Don't worry. All right, I've got your back. If he goes all out, I'll throw the towel in.
Great. I'm just doing my preparation physically. I jump on the spot and stuff like that. Very trying to let the steam out. Getting ready to hear my name so that I can enter the...
You hear your name called. Your trainer follows behind. The arena's about half full, which isn't bad for a rather unceremonious middleweight match.
I love it. I enjoy the cheers, I enjoy the noise. Everything is perfect. It's like a dream. I'm just going there. You've never experienced anything quite like it. Obviously you've boxed plenty of times before, but this is the first time in a major arena. It's your first time against a major opponent, and you've certainly never had a crowd in excess of 1,000 people watching. You don't know the numbers on the gate, but just casting your glance around, you think there may be upward of 2,000 people seated here. The one thing that makes my heart drown and lose my spirit is that as I try to get between the ropes, I look at the crowd very quickly, especially close to the ring, and I can't find my brother, I can't find Anna or my auntie, and I was expecting to see them. I even knew where their seats were, and this literally makes me feel very bad.
Gustav steps towards you, gloves out. The referee asks you to tap gloves.
Tap his gloves.
He reels off the rules as you know them.
I'm getting distracted because I'm worried.
Gustav sees that, and he speaks under the referee's voice to you. He addresses you, says, "Hey kid, look at me. Look at me."
Jonas looks.
If you want this done quick, hit me on the chin. First round. You part, the bell dings. come out fighting. How does Jonas fight, would you say?
So he immediately assumes the stance, the defensive stance. He has a big legs, so he can, with a couple of steps, he can reach the center of the ring. He immediately tries to establish dominance in the center, throwing a few jabs, left jabs to the air, and he's trying to measure Gustav to see how he's gonna respond, keeping him outside.
Gustav is throwing a few weighty lunges in your direction when he feels he has the opportunity, but your defensive posture is effective. You catch a number of his blows with your arms, with your gloves. He certainly doesn't make any blows connect with your face. You occasionally get a severe knock to the shoulder, the bicep, or the chest, but for the most part, your defense is working. You and he both rely far less on speed than you do on maneuverability and absorption of blows. And so your jabs connect with his defense and his lunges connect with yours. You don't really find any obvious openings to make a swift and decisive victory, but he did say, go for the chin if you want this to be over quickly.
I subconsciously focus on my training and what I've mechanically got used to doing. So I do a feint move to expose his attack on the wrong time, to give an opportunity for a target on his chin.
It's a good move. Everything you've read about Gustav actually told you that the last few matches where he was defeated, it was a feint such as this. It would make him drop his guard for just a split second, enough to allow an opponent to sneak in a blow. It's not always to the chin, mind you. Sometimes it's been to the forehead, the nose, but enough to send him reeling. A couple of times it's resulted in a clean knockout. Other times it's been the deciding factor when it's come down to points. But you do so. You feint, he lunges, you counterattack. Your glove connects with his chin. Gustav appears to dance in the ring briefly, his feet losing composure. And then he falls down on his backside. And the referee starts counting.
I'm very shocked. It seems a little bit fake. Doesn't feel right.
Gustav is shaking his head, putting a glove to his head. The count gets to 6. He staggers to his feet. And as the referee gives you the sign to continue, Gustav spits at you. So now I know you mean it. And then he's aggressive.
Is he back up? Is he on his feet now?
He's back up on his feet and he becomes aggressive.
I'm looking to capitalize on this. I make my defense even more strict. I just make him waste his energy on.
He does so. He piles blows into you, and they hurt. Good God, do they hurt. The adrenaline isn't enough to cancel out the pain from the weight of his fists smashing into you. And there's a few times that you instinctively feel the need to lower your arms to defend your midsection, which he keeps targeting, and you know it's so that he can then follow up with a smash to the face. But it's difficult not to defend yourself when you're being repeatedly pummeled. And then the bell dings, the first round is over. The look on Gustav's face after that first round is completely different to the almost kind way that he was speaking to you before the match. He's been taken over by the fight, the spirit of boxing, if you like. Your trainer pats you on the back. You're not bearing any splits, any wounds yet of note. But he gives you the bottle.
I try to breathe as much as I can, take as much oxygen as possible. I try to relax my arms. I know I have just a few seconds before I have to get it back up.
I couldn't, I didn't see that coming, he says. Look, you need to, what you're doing is fine if you think you can take it, if you think you can resist his blows. He is going to tire himself out. If not in the second round, by the third round, he's going to be dog tired. Thing is, I don't know that you can take that much punishment. You've never fought an opponent who's been so relentless as him. So let's keep in mind, if you can find an opening, take the risk, use it. He isn't fast enough to cover up his own weaknesses.
I'll try to switch it up this round. I'll try to capitalize on any mistake he does.
Second round begins. And Gustav comes out immediately with sledgehammer-like blows to your chest and your stomach. He's clearly just trying to make you lower your guard.
I focus. I know there's only one chance for this stuff, and I make the decision. I'm gonna sidestep towards his usual hand, the one he uses the most, and try to use his exposed side of the head while he's extending a hit.
You manage it. Gustav doesn't expect a blow from the plucky contender to the side of the head. He doesn't expect such a swinging, ranging blow. Maybe he just doesn't often oppose people with such long, gangly limbs. But you are able to get around his block and against his head, and this time there's no faking it. This time he isn't letting you get a cheap one in. When you connect with the side of his head, his body falls sideways like a oak falling in the woods. Just poof. The referee calls for the knockout. There's a little bit of cheering from the audience.
Jonas is getting excited.
Your trainer climbs in, hold your hand up. The referee announces you as the victor. You see the exchange of money from people in the audience. Gambling on this kind of thing is pretty normal. There's a part of you that almost expected you wouldn't be leaving this ring alive. It's only just dawning on you now as the adrenaline is rushing, as the pulse is thumping behind your eyes, as you realize that you have just beaten a boxing champion in 2 rounds. That this may not be the last match for you, but it sure as hell felt like it might be. When he was beating you senseless, and your ribs may well be broken, you're not sure. There's a part of you that wondered. You just wondered whether that was it. But it wasn't. You withstood. You ache all over, especially in your chest. Your arms as well, where he's been pummeling them. You don't remember him specifically targeting your left arm, but it's like you've trapped a nerve as it's just shooting with agony, and you're feeling a bit sick, but that's pretty normal after any boxing match. He's being helped to his feet now. He sees you. He gives you a salute. You weren't bad. And he staggers off, his arm around his trainer. As you exit the ring, you are given the winner's purse immediately. It's a healthy payment. It would certainly help towards the money towards the house you wanted to get with Anna.
Do I see Anna? Does Jonas see Anna or his aunt or Tobias?
You don't see any of the three of them. Your trainer helps you get dressed, gets gloves off you, gets you showered, cleaned up. He's feeling around your chest. It doesn't feel like any ribs are broken. Maybe everything's just a bit bruised, he says, as you're clearly in some pain. Are you all right? I know everything's probably still thumping away in there, but you just beat a champion, Jonas.
Jonas is excited. He doesn't even realize it yet. He's like, you know what? I don't care. Even if I lost tonight, I would still be happy at the end of the day. It was wonderful.
Good, because you seem distracted.
Yeah, you know what? When I was coming here, I couldn't get to the arena because there was protests and there was a lot of traffic, and I left Anna and my aunt in a traffic jam, and then I saw Tobias and I told him, "Can you just go check it out?" And they should have been back by the time we started boxing, and I couldn't see them when I started, and I still couldn't see them when we were going down.
Well, this place is like a bubble, you know. Once the fight starts, no news from the outside world is going to get in. How about we, once we're showered, we'll take a walk. We'll head down in the direction that you last saw Anna, your aunt, and Sibelius, and we'll find them, or we'll find out where they've gone. Could be that if there's some kind of roadblock, they may have just been held up by the police.
Yeah, of course. There was another thing. You know what? I was trying to get a bicycle, and the students were screaming, and somebody started shooting. I think I heard pistols and stuff.
Oh hell, well that's probably it then. I'm sure Anna and the rest of them are all fine, but I guarantee that East Berlin's on lockdown, especially that part of it. That's what it will be. They're not going to let anyone drive in or out if there's been a shooting.
You know what? I'm getting really anxious.
All right, let's go. We'll have a shower back at the hotel.
Jonas immediately tries to pack up everything and leave immediately.
As you're walking with the trainer, whose name we didn't assign, we'll go and call him Joseph. As you're walking with Joseph in the direction from which you came, sure enough, as he predicted, the streets have been locked down. The army are out in force, the police as well. You can't pass the cordon, but you can see just over there the closest car to the barricade on the other side is your Lada that you left Anna driving.
Okay, is anybody in there?
Yeah, you can see Anna still sat behind the wheel. When you see her, she sees you, and she leans out the window, waves, and shouts over the crowd, "Did you win?"
I showed her the purse.
As you hold your arm up to wave, the shooting pains in your chest grow to a immense pitch. Your arm collapses down as quick as it shot up. It is a paralysis of pain, and even Anna, all that distance away, can see it on your face. And Joseph can see the color just disappear from your skin. You feel like throwing up. You feel like sitting down. You feel like curling in a ball. The pain is total. It consumes your body. It's like your insides are on fire. You crumple you concertina, your knees folding into your feet, your bottom folding into your knees, your chest folding down to your waist, as you fold yourself down onto the road, clutching at your left arm, which just is exploding with pain. You can't know whether it was the boxing that caused your cardiac arrest. You can't know if you always had some kind of heart condition that was just fated to take your life at this very moment. There's a part of you that regrets Anna seeing you like this, being able to see you just disappear behind a crowd as you died, wondering whether it would have been best for her to not see you at all and know that the last time she saw you was when she wished you luck. And as Joseph holds your hand and shouts out for medical assistance, you see the flashes of your wife's face, your mother, your father, your auntie, your brother, everyone who's meant anything to you. You crumple and cry and rattle and die. And that is where your story ends. For now, anyway. And that is where we will conclude our session.